Aaron. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here with you, and we want to welcome all of our L&D leaders, tech visionaries, and innovators. We're all very grateful to have you here as our customers. Look, the future of work is now, and it's moving faster. That's the real promise and expectation of Gen AI. It will rapidly become faster and cheaper to obtain the skills, build software, analyze data, make sense of business performance, and market and communicate to your customers. Like the effect the internet had on distribution, Gen AI, in Microsoft's words, will become everybody's co-pilot. Over time, it will drop the marginal cost of knowledge work production to zero. This is our refactored future. So how do we keep up? How do you and I keep up? And how do we harness this change and ensure that human creativity, human intelligence, stays at the forefront? And how do we embrace the promise and prevent the perils? Pluralsight's prior mission was to democratize technology skills. But in work's brave new future, where Gen AI permeates our tools, more employees at every company will employ those tools and those skills expected previously of just a few. That's why our new mission is more relevant than ever, to advance the world's technology workforce. Why? Well, it opens our aperture and your view of us, and it informs what we should help build to ensure that you win. We know that as all organizations continue to shift from jobs to skill-based operating models, everyone needs a better way, such as a heads-up display of those in your organization that are applying their skills and learning new ones on a daily basis. We know you need better ways to simplify the complexities inherent in today's transformations. Why? Because complexity is the enemy of progress, and simplicity is complexity resolved. And so as you make this shift, we will make it with you. We aspire to build the system of action for what technologists know and what they can do in your organizations. And quite frankly, we see this as an evolution of our business and product strategy, not a revolution. It's additive to our roots, known for the highest quality, technologist-focused content, all under one roof. Immersive, hands-on experiences that meet your people where they are. And of course, measurement products that allow your leaders to lead better, whether that's a talent readiness campaign or to deliver software. As Aaron alluded to in his opener, organizations need to better understand and identify the skills that they have to build capabilities towards the skills that they need. We've historically called this the skills gap. And with Gen AI in our field of view, we know, I think you all know, it's going to continue to grow. Here's what we're doing to reduce complexity for you so that you can embrace the promise and prevent the perils. What we're excited to share spans 3 acts. First, I'm going to share an update on the single product experience that you can expect for Pluralsight Skills and A-Cloud Guru, and how today we've made it more flexible to manage your experience. Next, our team is going to share our commitment to evolve the technologist learning journey with new courseware and experiences. We're ready to help you and your organizations realize the promise of Gen AI. Last, we're making it easier for leaders by empowering them with empirical workflow data and connecting that data to skills. And we're going to demonstrate how our new partnership with Korn Ferry will ultimately make it easier to connect skills to the outcomes that you want to drive in your organization. In these 3 acts, you're going to learn how we're helping you to refactor your future. But first, a teaser, really about why you should care. I'm thrilled to invite Dr. Kat Hicks, VP of Research Insight, on stage to share her lab's most recent work on how Gen AI influences what we are calling the new developer. Everybody, please welcome Dr. Kat Hicks.
Running down to the riptide, taken away to the dark side. I wanna be your left-hand man. I love you when you're singing that song. Yeah.
So welcome, Kat. You get the hot seat too.
Lovely to be here.
Thanks for coming. So last year at Navigate, we announced the formation of the Developer Success Lab And by all accounts, I think you've had, and your team has had, just an incredible year.
Thank you.
And so, now that the lab is fully up and running and you've been publishing impactful research, for those in the audience that might not be familiar, can you just tell us a little bit more about your lab's mission?
Absolutely. So we're a team of social scientists. That means we study how software teams learn, work, and thrive, and we try to bring a human-centered approach to the pressing questions that face engineering organizations every day. So as you mentioned, we've released previous research, our big seminal research on developer thriving, and this showed the importance of developers' agency, their motivation, their learning, their belonging, and that this predicted not only thriving software teams, but team productivity, actually. Yeah. So now we're starting to build on that work, including studying the effects of AI on these software teams.
So glad you brought up developer thriving. If you all haven't read it, I'd highly encourage you pick up a copy of the team's paper outside the Developer Success Lab breakout later today. But let's hold that thought. Let's talk about your latest research on AI. There's been a lot of research on AI. What were you specifically setting out to achieve?
Yeah, so as is clear by this point, AI is coming. I think for software developers, it's already here. There's a lot of research on how organizations should adopt AI, the ethical considerations, how we're training and deploying our AI models, for instance, and the future of mankind. Going back to our focus at the Developer Success Lab, how developers learn, work, and thrive, we really wanted to set out to uncover how is AI impacting the ability of developers to thrive in their work. So our research questions look like this. What do we need to know about how developers are impacted by the changing demands and expectations on their roles? What are the risks that may impact not only the quality of the technical work that we all are relying on, but also developers' productivity and their thriving and their motivation on which all of this technical work really depends?
I personally think those are awesome research questions. I don't think a lot of research is actually asking those types of questions. So, as you surveyed the population you did, and you dug into the data, and you did your analysis, what sort of jumped out to you?
Yeah. So it's easy to think that developers will just immediately know exactly what to do with AI. But it turns out what we see in our data is that there are both current and emerging risks in the transition to Gen AI for many software teams. So as an example, what you're looking at in this chart here comes directly from our research. We see that 45% of the developers that we've looked at are actually feeling deeply worried about whether they could succeed in this era with their current technical skill sets. They're struggling to know what to do to meet this moment. And we call this phenomenon AI skill threat.
Interesting. So you've developed this framework, AI skill threat. When applied to software teams, what does that look like?
Yeah, so we see some really surprising and actually worrisome signals about it. So we wanted to ask not just what is AI skill threat, how can we understand it, but let's pull up the first chart we have on this here. What I'm showing you here is the average amount of AI skill threat that was reported by different developer groups. In this case, developers who are from the historical majority versus historically underrepresented groups. So for instance, racially minoritized developers. They're reporting higher average AI skill threat. And we found other interesting, important differences when you start to look at where is AI skill threat happening. So for example, women on software teams were significantly less likely to plan to upskill in new AI-assisted workflows.
Interesting.
Yeah, so let's take a beat, actually, because I think this is really important. As an industry, we've been tirelessly working to level the playing field. I know that folks in this room champion these efforts and have put a lot of work into this, into showing us how to do it right. But I think AI has a very real possibility of reversing this progress if the adoption does not go well.
Yeah. So, okay, we have some data. We know some of this research, what's uncovered. What can those in this room do about it?
Yes, I love that you asked this because this is the exciting question to me. We actually can change this, and this is a big part of what we studied. So let's get tactical into this. One thing that we see in our research is folks are really, really motivated to upskill in AI right now. So let's look at a second piece of data here. What I'm showing you is, remember I said some developers are feeling this AI skill threat. It's really distressing. And yet, we actually see racially minoritized developers are more likely to be planning to upskill. I see this as a tremendous opportunity. And when we look at over all of our data, we see that 74% of developers overall, they are planning to take action to upskill, right?
Yes, it's really insightful, actually, the differences between those two groups. But sort of to recap this, there is this sort of latent demand to upskill, right? You see it break out differently. But AI has this likelihood of possibly reversing some very hard-fought wins when it comes to building effective, sort of inclusive software development cultures. How do you estimate we solve for this?
Yeah, so you can actually tackle both of these issues at the same time. So one of the things we're really excited to see is, what is it that we can solve for on an organizational level? So I've been telling you about individual developers. Let's shift to think about our organizations. In our research, we found strongly held beliefs about what characterizes success in software work. These are things that may hold the key for why some developers are failing to thrive in this moment of transition. So quite simply, teams with what we call a contest culture, these are teams that have a higher likelihood of focusing on the wrong skills at this moment and marginalizing underrepresented voices in their developer communities. On the other hand, when we look at organizations who score high in those aspects in developer thriving, they report lower AI skill threat.
Interesting.
Yeah, and one really amazing thing about this that I love in our research is we actually found that this worked even when you see developers who are struggling on a personal level with this moment. These cultural factors help mitigate their skill threat.
Okay, so let's kind of dive into this a bit further, right? So you've established this contest between contest cultures and thriving cultures. Can you just unpack that a little bit more for the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I want you to imagine a software developer. And they're on a team, and on this team, they feel like, hey, I constantly have to prove that what makes me a good software engineer is I'm innately brilliant, okay? And they also feel like my software work is ultimately a contest. So there's only room for a few people to succeed, and to keep succeeding, I have to keep competing. And we actually see this a lot.
Yeah, it seems a lot like imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah, in fact, it leads to imposter syndrome. This is one of the core mechanisms that kind of builds that cycle. So these developers may be people who are working intensely hard, who are trying to show up well, but they're also making a lot of the wrong investments when we're talking about long-term sustainable learning and real transformation. So as you can imagine, if you're thinking about a whole organization transitioning to AI-assisted coding, these are the kinds of choices that start to wreak havoc on the momentum you want to have right now.
Okay, so we know what contest culture is. How can we focus on actually developing, thriving in an organization, and what does that look like?
Okay. Yes, so I want you to picture this. We picked this developer up, and we put them on a different team, all right? And this team has chosen to focus on collaborative learning. For software developers, we think from our research, developer thriving cultures, they present a very strong alternative to contest cultures. They change your behavior. So investing in a thriving culture encourages sustainable productivity practices. People get effort focused. They start to think about, we succeed together. I use AI this way and I teach you how to use it. One thing that we know across all of social science is that you can actually use really targeted interventions to increase some of the elements in developer thriving. This is why we picked these elements in the first place. So when I called out the belonging culture and the learning culture, we've seen that these are the kinds of interventions that can increase developers' self-efficacy in this moment. So for example, you see teams that hold learnathons or pre-mortems about AI adoption. This helps developers adapt to moments of rapid skill change.
That's awesome. So I'm not going to poll the audience, but I'm assuming there's a decent chance that we could postpone the rest of the keynote, and we could just listen to you talk about this more, right? But the good news for everyone here is that they do get to hear more from you and your team. This is a shameless plug, where can we learn more about how to apply some of the insights that we've only just briefly touched on here?
Well, I'm glad that came up so organically. I'm going to have a breakout session. Please come. We will go deeper into our research, which is also publicly available for you to take home. And what I'm also really excited about is that we've paired this research release with a generative AI adoption toolkit.
A toolkit. Who doesn't like those?
This toolkit comes with a benchmarking assessment that's actually adapted from our research. So we're giving that to you to use tomorrow or tonight if you're really, really motivated. This is a piece of material that allows organizations and teams to benchmark your AI adoption readiness and then respond to it with some tools allowing you to meet your teams and engineers where they are right now in their AI adoption journey. So please join us.
Well, awesome. Thank you, Kat. This type of research is just, so vital, I think, as we navigate this future of how our teams are going to utilize Gen AI and hopefully not be impacted by it. We all look forward to hearing more from you at your breakout later today.
Thank you.
Running down to a riptide, taken away to the dark side. I wanna be your
These new developer themes are going to resurface multiple times through our 3 acts. And our first act, as mentioned, is about how we've made it more flexible to manage and use Pluralsight. But before I share what's new, I expect many in the audience might be wondering or thinking, what's the latest on A Cloud Guru? So since the acquisition of A Cloud Guru, we've evolved to support organizations through their cloud maturity journey and serve the unique skill challenges that are really successful for cloud transformation. We've also released functionality to enable learners to navigate between our 2 platforms, Pluralsight Skills and A Cloud Guru. However, I know, this experience for customers large and small is not always optimal. And we've heard from many of you that switching introduces friction, and many have expressed the desire for a centralized experience. And based on your feedback, here's what to expect today. We're quickly moving forward to create a single product experience. This is going to unify the components that you love, the bite-sized learning, hands-on labs, cloud playgrounds, and sandboxes. And our goal in championing you, our customer, is of course to create the best product experience with maximum value, all available in one place. When it comes to learning, Pluralsight is and will be where innovation happens, and we are excited about creating that future with you. So let's take a step back. We're making way for that future of innovation by reducing administrivia and skills. You're going to have a lot more flexibility to manage your plan. You can mix and match different licenses and add-ons, like rolling out tech foundations to your teams, enterprise to some, and possibly a labs add-on to a smaller cohort. You can also add non-licensed users. Right now, I'm sure there are many people and teams in your organization that can benefit beyond just those assigned a paid license. Now you can just add anyone and everyone. And these non-licensed users can take skill assessments and use our free library. And all that data is ultimately going to roll up to your analytics, which provides a richer picture of what your people know and eventually what they can do. And lastly, you can, of course, auto-provision more flexibly with SSO. And in the future, we see more opportunities to reduce friction with something that we're calling license pooling. Right? This is going to allow you to delegate decision-making to your peers or reports or team leads in your organization, and each one of those folks will get a pool of licenses that they can then assign. Why? Because our goal is to consistently reduce friction. And we hope that you will be able to adapt faster, have a broader understanding of your organization, and really more easily allocate access to improve your outcomes. Now I'm thrilled to share with you how we're evolving the technologist learning journey. From Dr. Kat Hicks, we learned that nearly half of developers studied are worried about AI skill threat. But 3 out of 4 are planning to take action to upskill in Gen AI. So there's this potential energy stored up. Your people are ready to launch, but where? What do you do to enable them? Do you know what's out there? What can go wrong? Prompting an LLM to write an email, that's easy. That's not what we're talking about. What we're really talking about is how you, strategists, will help your team use the technology of Gen AI in successful ways over the next year, or possibly even decade to come. It's complex, just like cloud or engineering transformation is or was. But we're ready to help you navigate this transformation just as we've always done. To evolve the technologist learning journey, we commit to 3 things: educating the world on it, immersing the world in it, and of course, creating new experiences with it. To share more about our commitment to educate the world on AI, I'm very happy to invite Megan Manfrey and Simon Allardyce to join me. Megan is our VP of Content, and Simon our Creative Director and Principal Author. Everybody, please give Megan and Simon a very warm welcome.
We've been doing all this late night talking about anything you wanna till the morning. Now you're in my life.
We recognize that many of you are likely a bit tired of constantly hearing about generative AI.
We all know it's important. We all know it's having a huge impact, but at the same time, even if you're engaged and enthusiastic about this, it is still exhausting just to keep up with what's going on.
And you're not alone in this perfect storm. By the very fact that you're seated in this room today, we can assume you're involved in one or more aspects of software development, be that coding, testing, deployment, or security, or L&D, or content creation.
And even if you're not personally creating content, you're still involved in the selection and deployment of it.
And each of these, by itself, is being famously disrupted by generative AI. And we're at the intersection. We're at the overlap of all 3, the relative dumpster fire that is multiple areas of disruption all happening at the same time.
Now, if you're wondering, is this the part where they say, but wait, we have a plan? Well, yes, we do, and it's a little different because we're bringing our attention to some aspects that we believe others have been missing.
We believe that the way Gen AI is being taught is setting learners up for failure and getting in the way of using it successfully. Now, there's a number of different reasons for this, but to focus on just a few, first is a general mismatch in terms of audience. And I should really say audiences, because there are several very different audiences for generative AI. So any one-size-fits-all approach is doomed from the very start.
And next, it is so often being taught using trivial examples. Write a poem, summarize an email, write a packing list. And the thing is, the generative AI vendors don't help with this because they often suggest these trivial examples. You see, Google Bard, for example, they'll tell you that you can use their multi-billion-dollar AI to write a blog post about mocktail recipes, while Bing says you could use it to write a poem or plan a fishing trip. Even ChatGPT's homepage, this is yesterday, 3 out of 4 suggestions I got are using it for something trivial, including that I might want to make up a story about Sharky, the toothbrushing shark superhero.
It's no surprise we have folks who can use generative AI for entertainment, but they're not able to do anything real, let alone recognize potential business use cases. And apart from these first 2 issues, what we so often see is Gen AI content doesn't reflect the way the world consumes content today. And that's content that's short form, it's engaging, it's concise, it's information dense. And the places that are teaching Gen AI, they're not just making one of these mistakes, they're making all 3.
As just one example, and we will blur their identity, but you would all know this company if we showed them. They have an introduction to ChatGPT offering for beginners, which requires 7 hours to complete. Why? I mean, is there anybody in this room who needed 7 hours to be introduced to ChatGPT?
It's back to that idea, though, they're mismatching an audience. They're acting as if everyone who wants to use ChatGPT wants to become a data scientist. And within 2 minutes of the so-called introduction, you're set into long explanations of tokenization and how probability distribution works.
All right, some of you might remember back in the mid-90s when the web first became a thing. If you went to a bookstore to try and learn about it, you would typically come out with something like this, some massive tome with 1,500 pages, where you have to go through 300 pages of how TCP/IP works and long explanations of hypertext transfer protocol. Now, are there people who need to know how TCP/IP works? Absolutely. But did you need that to learn to use the web? No. And it feels like we're in exactly the same place right now with Gen AI, that people are spending way too much time over-explaining unnecessary things and not enough time on the right ones. But enough ragging on the competition. I could do this all day.
We're doing it differently. We're creating Gen AI content with a focus on the audience. And we've defined 3 discrete audiences, and we're building content specifically for each, engaging with learners' motivations and their goals. And in those cases where learners don't have predefined motivations and goals, we're helping to make these clear.
So for the first audience, which you can think of as practitioners or end users or mainstream audience or just, well, everybody, we're about to release our new Generative AI Foundations content. This is the what everybody needs to know, both a tech and a non-tech audience. Short courses, high production values, live video, motion graphics, fast, engaging. There's 6 courses in this. Each one is under 30 minutes. The first course is an introduction, or for a lot of people, it'll be a reintroduction, the kind of way that you should have been introduced to generative AI. We'll talk about prompt engineering. We'll cover ethical concerns, bias, copyright. One of these courses is just Gen AI in practice, in action, and real-world uses in different business domains. No poems, no packing lists. There's an overview of the generative AI marketplace, and we'll talk about issues and limitations, everything from hallucinations to just what's the kinds of problems this is useful for.
And for the audience that needs more, for those that are building new solutions and new offerings with Gen AI, we're creating courses, assessments, and soon hands-on labs with coverage of tools from OpenAI and Anthropic and services such as Azure AI, Amazon Bedrock, and Google's Vertex AI, and all those yet to come. It's content designed to be created and consumed quickly, to keep pace with the rate of technology change. And this is quicker than anything we've seen before. We're simultaneously creating Gen AI best practices and teaching them.
And having said that, we know very well there isn't just one kind of builder audience. So we are creating specialized Gen AI content across all of our domains: software development, cloud, security, IT operations. And this coverage is everything from using these tools for programming and scripting to writing prompts for troubleshooting and deployment, and just managing the generative AI-created security risks and privacy concerns.
And for those that are leading Gen AI programs, projects, and teams, we're building content specifically for leaders. Because while you may not be building or specializing with Gen AI, in order to be successful, you need to understand the problems that Gen AI does and doesn't solve. You need to know best practices and common use cases, the limitations and costs, the benefits and the risks. So for this audience, we're creating content that applies Gen AI to a business context to ensure it's leveraged efficiently, effectively, and safely. But enough overview. Here's an example.
Are you ready? Here we go.
There's a bunch of different ways I could start a course about generative AI. I could begin with hype. Isn't technology wonderful? Generative AI can take care of everything now. But I could begin with a critique. Generative AI is biased. It is unreliable. It's wrong. It is deceptive.
As you can see, we spent quite a bit of time and effort to create content that's engaging. But this isn't simply for entertainment. This content is created with the core principle that we build content and we adapt content for how learners actually consume content. It isn't how we wish they would, or how we think they should, or how they used to, but how they actually do every single day. And that's short-form content. It's concise, it's engaging, it's less filler, less fluff. Here's an example of what we mean by short-form content.
It's easy to see bias in generative AI. Use any of the image generating tools like Midjourney, DALL-E, or Stable Diffusion, and ask for an image that represents a particular kind of job, like I want a picture of a professor. You'll get multiple options, but do you see a certain similarity in the results? Let's try another. What does a software developer look like? And one more. How about a preschool teacher? Okay, we can understand why we get these results. These tools were trained on millions of existing images. Images with these keywords have often skewed to a particular gender, age, and skin color. But the AI can end up reinforcing this, as if all professors have to now look like 60-year-old bearded white guys. Can you get Gen AI to be more diverse? Absolutely, but you have to ask for it. And to ask for it, you need to notice when this is happening. So the point of this is that was just 52 seconds. But it makes a point. It has an opening. It has 3 relevant real-world examples. It has a call to action. It is complete. And for most people watching it, you get it. And let's face it, at 52 seconds, most training content hasn't even started yet. You're still in the middle of some templated preamble. Welcome, and I am very excited to be here today to talk to you about the issues of ethical bias in generative AI. No, we're not doing that. And okay, while short-form content doesn't solve everything, when it's done well, it allows us to teach something and be done. Someone can be in and out, and that's while the other folks are still putting their boots on.
We've published more than 30 Gen AI courses to date, and we're just getting started. We are all in on generative AI, and there's so much yet to come. Thank you.
You my little boo thing, so I'll give a hoot what you do. Say, girl, I know you a little too tame. I'll be shooting that shot like 2K, girl, I know.
Thank you, Megan and Simon. Next, as mentioned, we commit to immerse the world in Gen AI. As your partner in navigating its new frontier, we have exciting immersive experiences to preview. For example, imagine the ability to put hundreds or possibly thousands of technologists and business users into a Gen AI learning environment where they can learn and practice at whatever their level is. To meet this need, we're building AI sandboxes. Let's take a look.
Introducing Pluralsight's AI sandboxes. 3 experiences in one. First, a prompt sandbox. Quickly compare large language models. Add the LLMs you want and find what solves your problem. Plus, learn parameters, tokenization, billing, and API anatomy. Next, AI cloud sandboxes provide console access to services like AWS SageMaker. Build AI skills without the cost or risk of managing cloud environments. And finally, a no-setup SageMaker Studio notebook. Gain scripting and AI skills through hands-on experience with one click. Now, you can tackle automating, generating, classifying, summarizing, debugging, refactoring, coding, scripting, and innovating fast and easy. How will your teams experiment, adopt, and create with AI?
With AI sandboxes, your teams will be more confident AI creators and not just consumers. Now, I'm very excited for you to hear from our VP of Data Science, Michelle Keim. She's going to share a new AI experience that helps rethink our learning journey. Please join me in welcoming Michelle to the stage.
You my little boo thing, so I'll give a hoot what you do. Say, girl, I know you a little too
Thanks,
tame.
Greg.
I'll be shooting that shot.
And hi, everyone. It's great to be here with you today. Today, we committed to educate and immerse the world in AI, but like many of you, we're also creating with it. I also know many, maybe all of you, are thinking, how are you going to leverage this technology for your customers? Not just keep abreast with it, but ideate with it and execute on its advantages. Here at Pluralsight, our data science and machine learning team has been learning and experimenting with these new capabilities, but not just for the novelty of it, but to actually answer, what does Gen AI offer us to solve your problems in ways that were previously unavailable? Iris, the machine learning and statistical models behind Skill IQ, our skills and gap analysis, and our content recommendations, is a powerful foundation. It informs the leader and learner about where they are today, what they need to learn, and how do they do so, relative to specific skills and specific roles. But imagine that you had a partner who could help you determine what skills you need individually or as a team or as an entire organization, and provide a learning plan to get there in the context of a very specific problem that you are trying to solve. This is a capability that Gen AI can unlock. So today we are building an AI assistant that furthers the power of Iris and will solve problems in personalized and powerful ways, specific to the user's context. I'm excited to preview its capability through 2 use cases that we're going to look at today. First, let's say I'm a developer and my dream job, and whose isn't, is to become a machine learning engineer, but I don't know where to start. So I begin talking to the AI assistant. I share my current role and my goal, and I ask for help. The assistant advises me on the steps I should take, and it helps me find Pluralsight courses to support them. Now, I know I have some ground to cover between my current skills and those I need, and I'd like to know, where should I start? So I ask, what's the best order in which to approach this coursework? Then the assistant builds a more detailed learning plan for me with all of that content. I've also been thinking about, I'm curious about, are there any certifications that might help me land my dream job? The assistant efficiently educates me on some certifications that may be helpful and why, providing me with information that will inform what I decide to pursue. So based on that information, I decide that I'm interested in the AWS cert, and I want to know, how do I get started preparing for it? The context-aware assistant gives me next steps from Pluralsight courseware mapped to the specifics of that certification. Now I'm ready to get started, and I want it to be as easy as possible to move through the content and track my progress. So I asked the assistant to make a Pluralsight skills channel for me, pre-filled with what we just talked about, and it's mapped to my personal learning and my career objectives. And it does. Now, imagine I'm a leader looking to upskill a team. Historically, I've relied on my best guess as to the skills we need for different situations, and I've browsed and searched the Pluralsight library to find the right content for my team. But now I can start with my own librarian. And instead of searching for content, I share my context and the problem I'm trying to solve. I tell the assistant about how I have a Python team, and we've inherited a Java app that needs to be maintained. I ask the assistant to help me figure out, how can they take this on? It suggests courseware, but it also asks clarifying questions about my team and my objectives so that it can provide me with a more specific answer. So I share a bit more. The team is experienced in Python, but not Java, and I need help moving them from one language to the other. And the assistant suggests courses that specifically support this transition and tells me why they are relevant. Now, I'm also worried about how quickly we need to shift. So I share that we actually have a 2-week deadline before we own the app's maintenance, and I ask, where should we start? It creates a holistic plan for me, and importantly, it suggests which Pluralsight courses will make the biggest difference given the clock. These are just 2 examples of how Gen AI-powered assistant enables the user to share their problem and their goals, not just search for information. Further, the conversational experience allows them to refine and clarify the goals and provide additional information and background context. We're working to bring this experience to all of you quickly, and we're energized and excited, not just about the possibilities that Gen AI is opening up, but what we uniquely can create with it when it's coupled with our current foundational capabilities in intelligent skill development. And I'm grateful that you all are joining us for the next evolution. Thank you.
You my little boo thing, so I'll give a hoot what you do. Say, girl, I know you a little too tame.
Thank you, Michelle. So you've been listening to us talk a lot about AI upskilling, and I'd like to invite someone who's focused on this challenge in their organization onto stage. So Lana Forbes is instrumental in building the skills required for Amgen's digital transformation. Everyone, please join me in welcoming Lana Forbes.
Watch me dance, dance the night away. My heart could be burning, but you won't see it on my face. Watch me dance, dance the night away. I'll still keep the party running.
Welcome.
Thank you
Another
for
one in
having
the hot
me.
seat.
Yes, sir. Nice to see you.
Yeah, you too. So for those who might be unfamiliar, can you just please introduce all of us to Amgen?
Absolutely. So Amgen is a worldwide pioneer in biotechnology. We do that very simply by following our mission to serve patients. We truly are thinking about advancing innovative medicines every day. These are designed to meet major unmet medical needs, primarily in inflammation, cardiology, and oncology. We have headquarters in Thousand Oaks, California. We are based in more than 100 countries around the world. And we're truly seeing that we're at the very beginning of a revolution around science and technology and medicine. We're seeing that we'll be reshaping the way doctors can treat and potentially cure serious disease around the world. So let me just say, as we get started, I'm so excited to be here. My comments are really my own, not necessarily representative of Amgen or any other partners. So let's chat. I'm excited.
Let's chat.
Yes.
Yeah, so Amgen, it's a big organization,
It
right?
is, yeah.
How is AI upskilling a part of your broader digital transformation?
Absolutely. So Amgen's story has always been one of innovation. We actually just came off of our mission week. That's a time for all of us to sit back and learn and celebrate everything that we're all doing as staff to move our mission forward. So as part of that innovative mindset, we truly feel that by utilizing AI capabilities, we can serve our mission to serve patients by doing our work faster and better. We're looking at using AI to improve some of our business processes and do them, again, faster and better, all thinking about serving the patients.
Yeah, it makes sense in terms of your strategic focus on it. So
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone in this audience would appreciate some more insight really on what your upskilling journey at Amgen has sort of looked like.
Yeah. So let's talk about AI upskilling, because that is really where our head is at when we're thinking about how are we going to use AI technology and move our mission forward. So thinking about the people, there was so much that was already shared this morning about focusing on human intelligence and upskilling our people. We knew that we needed to develop a better understanding at Amgen about our learner. There are 24,000 people at Amgen worldwide and many different types of learners, so need to get our arms around that, the who. And then we thought about our learning needs. So what is it that the learner is actually going to need? Now, it's the anticipated need, right? Because we know that this space is changing so rapidly that we need to anticipate what it is that they're going to need. So it's a very unique kind of question.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
there's probably a lot of elements that are similar to how we build products based on sort of personas, right? And I think there might be some key elements in your framework like that. Could you share a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we're really thinking about all of the different personas and these different learners across the organization. So the first thought was, how do we workshop the concept of the who, right? Who is it that needs to learn about AI? Now, a user persona is nothing more than a realistic view of a user profile. What are their behaviors? What are their needs? What are their interests? This gives us a better view of the person that we are trying to upskill, and then we move on to what they need. So each persona is going to have learning objectives. Learning objectives need to be brief and clear and and specific kind of views of what the outcomes are. What is it that the learner needs to be able to do, right? What is it that they need to be able to show that they have learned? Now, many of our learning objectives will be common across persona. So you've got your AI fundamentals, you've got your art of the possible, you've got risk and confidentiality and bias and ethics and all of those things in references to how Amgen thinks about it. But some of the objectives are going to be very particular to persona as well.
Okay, so punchline.
Yes.
How does Amgen think about it? What were the personas that you came up with?
Yes. So this is kind of wild because I was in the back listening to Simon talk, and we did not lift this, but our personas are leader, builder, and user, right? So spot on. Swear we didn't lift it, but our mindset, and I think this is pretty cool, right? Our mindset is really much like, if not identical, to Pluralsight. So our leader is the person in the leader position who has the ability to affect change. They are responsible for making decisions. They are the visionaries and the ones who own executing the AI vision. So here you can think of executive management, you can think of directors and team leads. When we think of our builder, this is our technical audience. They are more technical than any other persona. They have comfort with different kinds of technologies, but not necessarily AI, right? They may have a conversational knowledge. They might have a deep knowledge. So here we've got, throughout Amgen, certainly architects, software engineers, many data scientists, and that's our builder. User now encompasses the many, many non-technical roles throughout Amgen. So you've got folks who are really thinking about utilizing AI to move their quality and their efficiency forward around the products and processes that they support. So these could be folks like myself, learning and development, right? Project managers, product managers, communication specialists, technical writers, all throughout Amgen. So these are our three.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Last question for you.
Yes.
How have you actually put this framework and personas into action, and also what's next for you?
Absolutely. Yes. So the outcome of workshopping the personas was to work very closely with our Pluralsight partners to think through curated, personalized learning pathways. So each persona has a learning pathway, and they all start with the AI skills IQ, which, by the way, is not easy. If you haven't taken it, it will humble you. I'm not going to tell you what my percentage was the first time that I took it.
You can always improve.
You can always improve and identify those skills gaps. Right? So we followed the skills IQ with Pluralsight content, adding to that Amgen content, because we are constantly looking to make that content relevant for the Amgen learner. Following developing that first draft of curated pathways, we launched them on one of our digital learning days at Amgen, which is a time that we set aside for online learning, for SME sessions. Staff dive in globally and engage in that content. We had hundreds of users trying it out. And now it is test and learn. Now it's test and learn. Do our pathways meet the need of the persona? We focused very much on the who, right? So thinking about the who and the human, does it meet the needs of that individual? Do we find that we're meeting the objectives that we set aside to each one of those, for each one of those personas? So to us, the framework was really bookended by the who and what does success look like, right? And after that comes the how. So is the how working? Is the pathway working for us? But we're keeping our eyes on the who, the North Star, and that what does success look like. Going forward, we're testing and learning, and most importantly, and I'll end with this, application and measurement. How do we really know that the learning has taken place? These folks need to be able to apply their learnings to their work. We have scores of projects that have been submitted around Amgen, ideas for utilizing AI to move our mission forward. Our thinking is to apply these learnings to those projects and then also be able to measure how our upskilling worked out and how it needs to be tweaked, right? So that is our measure of success. So application and measurement is really what we're thinking of at this point.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll speak for everyone here in saying that I think it's just incredible to hear how you put this into practice, right, at Amgen. And you're a little bit ahead of the group. So, I'm sure a lot of people will have questions later. So I just wanted to thank you, Lana, for sharing really how your work at Amgen is helping to refactor the future and also upskill your teams.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Watch me dance, dance the night away. My heart could be burning, but you won't see it.
So many companies like Amgen are beginning their journey to upskill in Gen AI. But to succeed in your organization, you need to spend just as much time empowering your leaders as you do your technologists. That's why we've invested so much in skills analytics, skill and role IQ, and also Pluralsight Flow. And that's why I'm also thrilled to announce that the empirical workflow data within Flow is more accessible than ever before. Next, to show a preview of how skills and Flow are coming together. And then last, to also unveil how our new partnership with Korn Ferry will make it easier to connect people and skills to outcomes in your organization. To tell you more about this, I'd like to first introduce Paul Offerman, GM of Pluralsight Flow. Please welcome Paul.
Walking on a dream, hoping I explain.
Good morning. It's great to see everyone here today. Many of you are just meeting me for the first time, but one place where I bet we agree is this. The art and science of leading great engineering teams can be complex, but as Greg said before, simplicity is complexity resolved. To tackle complexity, you need to have an honest assessment of what's really happening so that you can be confident in your decisions. Just as skills analytics can tell you what your teams know, Flow is built to tell you how work is getting done so that you can be more predictable and more efficient. Flow connects with your rich workstream data, like your code commits, your ticketing system, your collaboration tools, so you can have objective visibility into how to work better, how to communicate needs and wins, and how to lead more effectively. Let's talk about a few examples. One of our customers recently used the data and insights from Flow to run a study into the effectiveness of using Gen AI, namely Copilot, within their teams. Rather than have individual engineers just mess around with it, they decided to be more intentional in studying the effects that it would have on their productivity. They broke their team into two groups, one with and one without Copilot, and by using Flow data, they were able to better understand the effect that this change had on their engineering efforts, and they were able to make the right decision for their business. They've since rolled out Copilot across all of their teams. Another one of our customers used Flow to dive into their code review process. Not only did they drastically reduce unreviewed pull requests and greatly improve code quality, but they also found that their practice of reviewing code written in Asia by teams in North America was drastically hurting their ability to ship key features due to time zone-related delays. Now, armed with that insight, this team empowered their global units with the full decision-making authority from product to production to enable each global team to own the complete customer experience. And with Flow, they had the confidence and the stats to back them up that these changes have been successful. Last, we're all tired of hearing the phrase, do more with less, do more with less. How about accomplish more, do less? That would sure be refreshing. One of our customers did just that. Flow's new investment profile capability showed that a much higher percentage of development time was going into technical roadmap initiatives than was planned. Now, on the surface, that may not seem like such a bad thing. But that same report also showed that several key customer initiatives that were vital to their strategy were substantially under-resourced. By uncovering these issues early, they were able to course-correct, right-size the work, and ultimately deliver on their commitments, accomplish more, do less. If these stories resonate, I'd love to hear from you. Our team is built to help you transform. This comes from data, but data is just the beginning. Flow is the engineering transformation partner. We bring together not only great software, but also empirical research and deep expertise to help ensure that your transformation is a success. If you want real objective insight into how your engineering teams are performing, I'm going to offer a complimentary service to turn the lights on. For everyone in the audience today, we'll connect to your workstream data, we'll analyze that data, and we'll deliver key recommendations to help you build a high-performing, healthy engineering organization. I promise that through this effort, you will gain powerful, actionable insights about your teams. But that is not all. As Greg said, we've now made Flow more accessible than ever with the release of a number of new deployment options. Flow has a long history already of working with the most stringent customer security teams around the globe to implement Flow and empower their leaders with the data that they need to lead. Flow continues to operate with this security as a strategy mindset that has enabled us to be the most secure and enterprise-ready solution available. But we also realize that every one of your organizations has a unique set of requirements and needs that directs the decisions of your information security teams. For some, quite simply, multi-tenant cloud solutions are off the table. That's why I'm excited to announce both Flow Single Tenant and the Flow Git Metadata Collector. Flow Single Tenant is an enterprise-ready, fully isolated, dedicated SaaS service that is hosted and managed by Pluralsight, is deployed on AWS, and leverages a private link connection to ensure that your data is encrypted in transit and at rest. Flow Single Tenant includes granular access controls that allow our customers to control who can view, edit, and share their data. All of this enhanced security is now available while still enabling you to access Flow using the SSO provider of your choice. Pluralsight teams fully manage the operations and maintenance of each isolated instance, so you can access our latest product improvements while meeting the most complex and rigorous compliance standards. Meanwhile, for those that host their source code repos on-premise, the Flow Git Metadata Collector is both a great name and an optional add-on that provides an additional layer of security without requiring you to manage and host an entire Flow instance. The metadata collector is a small, self-contained service that processes code commits locally and produces the metadata that Flow needs to generate insights about your business. We all know that implementing new practices and tools in any organization can be a complex, time-consuming activity. But with these new capabilities, you can now easily implement the insights from Flow with as little friction as possible. And what makes these new capabilities even more exciting is that it unlocks the power of combining skills and Flow for all of our customers. In fact, over the last year, we've had a special team dedicated to one specific objective. Can you infer skills from code commit data? Today, I'd like to preview the future of what that looks like.
Gen AI may be shining a light on your current skills gaps, but this new technology is really just highlighting an age-old question. How do you identify the skills you have across your organization? And how do you really understand what your teams can do? We started solving that problem with Skill and Role IQ and Pluralsight's Flows Proficiency Report, and that data combined is insightful, but our team is exploring new ways to see how knowledge is applied. We can now contextualize the code being written so teams and leaders can better understand their team's readiness to tackle the organization's biggest problems. Over the last decade, Pluralsight Skills has built an exhaustive taxonomy that includes over 3,400 specific skill subjects to ensure that we have expert content available across the technologies your teams utilize every day. Using a combination of open source projects and millions of lines of our own internal code base, we trained a machine learning model we call Pluralsight XP to detect any time a technology subject appeared in a commit diff. The first output of Pluralsight XP is a proof of concept data tool that answers a few key questions. First, are our people using the skills that they've been upskilling in? Next, who has the experience in the skills that I need for a new project or job? And 3, where do we need to invest in more upskilling efforts? With the answers to these questions, you'll be able to identify and build the skills that you need to execute on your next transformation and adapt to the disruptions of today and tomorrow. The future of Pluralsight is one where we empower organizations to tap into an interconnected web of signals, from interests to applied knowledge that unlocks the potential of human intelligence.
I'm so excited about the future of our Learning Bridge efforts and how we're working to bring skills and flow together. This really is the future of Pluralsight, a future where data and insight will unlock your team's full potential. And in the spirit of connecting insights to skill development to help your transformation efforts, I want to provide a deeper dive into our partnership with Korn Ferry. So let's hear it from Satish Ganu, Korn Ferry's Chief Product and Technical Officer, about what we're going to be building together and how it's going to make us better together.
My name is Satish Ganu, Chief Product and Technology Officer at Korn Ferry Digital. Greg, I would like to thank you for providing me the opportunity to say a few things. There's an extreme pressure to develop, upskill, and transform existing talent to drive the digital transformation required to meet and exceed the needs of customers, employees, and partners at scale and pace. Korn Ferry and Pluralsight are better together because our shared capabilities will help leaders understand transformational readiness and create a system of action to help people lead successful transformation. First, leaders could create order from chaos. Korn Ferry's AI-based auto mapping technology helps create this job architecture. Korn Ferry's job architecture helps leaders see a map of the technical roles by sub-function and level, so they could easily, 1, understand the relationship with roles, 2, identify overlapping roles, and 3, identify any gaps, including empty or missing roles. Leaders could then define what success looks like. This is made possible by Korn Ferry's Success Profile. Korn Ferry's Success Profile are dynamic benchmarks that provide a complete definition of what good looks like for every role to support the transformation strategy across accountability, capability, and identity. The mapping is made possible through proprietary data, big data analytics, and over 35 years of workforce consulting and transformation. Top technical skills for each success profile were derived from analyzing over 40 million jobs. By partnering with Korn Ferry, now leaders could benchmark for success through Pluralsight tools like Role IQ and Skill IQ. They can assess technically and soft skills against Korn Ferry's Success Profile. Success Profiles, Skill IQ, and Role IQ together unlock new actionable insights and decision making, such as understand where there is missing or matching skills, understand who's leading within categories, understand the size of the candidate pool for critical roles, and ultimately make more data-driven decisions about their teams. At the same time, this partnership could support talent mobility through Korn Ferry's Career GPS. It is similar to Google Maps. Career GPS suggests how employees can achieve their career goals. Career GPS is built using machine learning on 40 million technical resumes, using features like timing job-to-job transition, and skills required for transitions. So a partnership between Career GPS and Role IQ means that learners could understand where they are relative to their goal, whether they're a good match for the next step, finally, how to create more opportunity and access for themselves in the future. At the same time, leaders understand how people can move internally between roles to support transformation. I'm looking forward to the partnership. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, Satish. We see this partnership as two very powerful sets of capabilities coming together where the whole will most likely be more than the sum of its parts. So together, we will help you lead better with the combination of Korn Ferry's job architecture, success profiles, and even Career GPS, alongside our own Skill IQ, Role IQ, and Skill Analytics. I know what you're thinking. We covered a lot today. So I'll just recap. First, about the future of Pluralsight skills and A Cloud Guru and how we've laid the foundation for that future by making it easier to manage your plans. Next, we talked about the evolving learner experience with a focus on Gen AI. We encourage your teams to dive into the Gen AI courseware and other content that's available now. We're also very grateful to Lana for sharing her expertise and experience at Amgen. Next, we talked about how you can utilize empirical workflow data to make better decisions and how the new Flow for Enterprise capabilities will open up a world of insight for many of you in this audience so that you can lead better. Last, of course, we just dived into more detail about our new partnership with Korn Ferry and the possibilities it unlocks. We showed how our combined capabilities will create and help support the system of action to help leaders drive successful transformations of all types. So where do we go from here? One, I'd love if you could schedule a data walk with our Flow team to help really understand how your teams work. You can also make sure that your team is using, of course, those latest skills on Gen AI and you can find them at pluralsight.ai. And we also have some incredible breakouts from the Developer Success Lab, Simon, fellow technology and engineering leaders like Naveed Zahid and Melissa Davey from Manulife. And don't worry, everything is recorded so you can always catch up on anything you missed later. Thank you all for your partnership with us as we refactor the future. I look forward to connecting with many of you more formatively over the next 2 days. Thank you.
Walking on a dream.